What's up guys, welcome back. Vibrant red hair can be pretty tricky to paint, but we can use a simple shading trick to get a really nice result. Here's what we're going to be aiming for.
Yes! That's awesome!
We'll begin with scale colour Aldebaran red. You can get the same colour by adding a small amount of Games Workshop Mephiston red to Wild Rider red. This is going to give you an excellent base colour to work over. For our first highlight, we'll jump straight to scale colour Mars Orange. It's a really nice and bright tone, very similar to Macharius Solar Orange from the old Games Workshop Foundation line. We'll apply that colour to each strand of hair, like so. Try not to paint the whole length of the hair, you just want to target roughly the upper 2/3 of each strand. When you're doing this, be careful not to go into the recesses. A brush with a good tip is going to make this a lot easier. Next, we'll mix in a very bright yellow to our highlight colour. I'm using scale colour Sol Yellow, but GW Flash Gitz Yellow is pretty much an exact match. Now we'll basically do the same thing again, but we'll cover a much smaller surface area. We're trying to aim for the apex of the rounded parts of the head so that our highlights match the shape of the hair. For our final highlight, we'll just use our bright yellow and place a small highlight on each hair along the apex point. Notice I stagger them a little so that even though they follow the apex, they are not perfectly in line with each other. If you look at actual hair, you'll see that the strongest highlights here follow more of a zigzag pattern than a straight line, so it's good to try and emulate that on the model as well. The last step is to mix a little Cantabaric blue into our base red, which is going to give us our shade colour. If you've been following along with the previous videos, you'll notice this is the same blue that I used to paint the jeans. It's always good to reuse colours from other parts of the miniature as it helps to tie all the colours together and stops you from getting any horrible colour clashes. Now we're going to add a fair bit of water to thin this down to a glaze consistency, and what we're going to do is just glaze along the seam at the top of the head, and we'll also do the roots by glazing into the recesses just at the top of the head here. Again, like we did with highlights, try to make these a little irregular so that they're not all the same length. You're going to have to build this up over a couple of layers. The reason we don't put this on too thickly is because we want to have the orangey red base colour showing through underneath, and it's quite easy to lose that if the paint gets too thick. You can also pick out a few shadows along the side here just by glazing into the recesses. You don't really need to do every single one, just pick out a few here and there. And we'll make it a bit more pronounced where the hair nears the neckline, as there would be less light hitting that area, so we can darken that down a little more than the rest of the hair. Alright guys, so that is how you paint bright red hair. The colours give you quite a cartoony finish, but I think it works well in this model. Adding the blue into the shadows really helps to give you a more interesting finish without things getting too muddy. You still retain that vibrancy to the colour. Also, because we didn't use any washes, we were able to get a much more controlled finish. As always, I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone that's been helping support the channel via Patreon. Your donations are very much appreciated. I should actually be able to buy a new camera soon, so it won't be long before we're getting some 2-camera shenanigans in the videos. It will be good to have a dedicated palette camera so you can see what's happening on the palette in real time. I think that would be pretty cool. Alright guys, so thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. Coming up, we've got either the next blending techniques video or another critique video. I'm working on them both at the same time, so it will be whichever one I finish first really. After that, I'm going to do a multi-part series on the cruise model from Raging Heroes, although I do need to paint it first, so. Oh, and there will also be a Patreon only video showing how to paint black. I'm going to show 3 or 4 different ways to approach it. I've had quite a lot of people ask for a video on that, so it should be quite a good one. Alright, so I think that's enough waffling. I better get back to the painting desk. If you enjoy these tutorials, you can help fund their creation by clicking the Patreon link in the description box below and signing up to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thanks again. Bye for now.